I told him we should end things. The words just flew out, sharp, final, and unfiltered. But the second they left my lips, they clung to the air, heavy, suffocating. I hadn't meant for them to carry that kind of weight. Honestly, I hadn't really meant them at all. Yes, I was upset. But deep down I never believed he'd take it seriously. I thought he'd fight for us. I expected him to call me out, tell me I was overreacting, insist that we could fix it. But instead, he just looked at me. His eyes were soft with quiet pain, and he simply said, "If that's truly what you want." I wasn't prepared for how calmly he accepted it. He didn't push back, didn't ask why. He didn't even try to understand. It was as if part of him had already accepted this would happen, like he'd seen the cracks forming long before I had. But I hadn't. I didn't see it then. All I knew was I was frustrated. With him, with the way we kept growing apart, with the loneliness I felt in a relationship that was supposed to make me feel safe. I didn't know how to say any of that out loud. So instead, my emotions erupted. And in that moment, they destroyed everything. He had always been my anchor, my shelter. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling that way about him. And realizing that, it broke me, more than I wanted to admit. But instead of letting him see that pain, I pushed him away. A week went by after that night. A week drenched in silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that takes up space, that weighs on your chest. I kept waiting for him to reach out, for him to say anything, to ask for another shot, to try. I thought there'd be a moment, one where I could say I was sorry, where he'd know I didn't mean it. But nothing ever came. Then one afternoon it happened. I was mindlessly scrolling through social media, still lost in the emptiness of that past week. And I saw it. A photo. He was smiling, standing beside someone new. She held his hand, her head resting gently on his shoulder as they posed in a park. The caption? "Looking forward to what's ahead." I froze. My stomach dropped. I couldn't breathe. It hit me. How tightly I'd been clinging to the hope that he'd come back. That somehow, despite everything I'd said, he'd still choose me. But he was already moving on. Already finding joy in someone else. Someone who, it seemed, made him happier than I ever had. And I know I should have been glad for him. If I truly wanted what was best, I should have felt relieved that he'd found someone who could give him what I couldn't. But all I felt was this unbearable, crushing regret. And the question echoed in my mind. Did I drive him away with my careless words? Was it really my fault? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake replaying every moment we shared. The late-night talks. His ability to make me laugh, even when I didn't want to. The way he held me, always knowing when I needed it most. How did I let all of that slip away? I remembered all the times I told him I loved him. All the moments I believed he was the one. Why hadn't I fought harder for us? Why didn't I just say what was really in my heart? But instead, I let fear and frustration take over. And in doing so, I shattered something I didn't know how to put back together. The days that followed were a blur. I threw myself into work, into friends, anything to keep from thinking. But every time I paused, my thoughts went straight to him. And from him to her. The girl in the picture. The one smiling beside him. The one who now stood where I once did, in a life I believed would always be mine. I kept trying to convince myself that I had to let him go. That he was finding the happiness he deserved. A happiness I hadn't been able to give. But deep inside, I wasn't ready. I couldn't accept that I might have destroyed everything. That one rash decision had cost me the only person who ever truly got me. I tried calling him twice. But both times I couldn't go through with it. I knew I had to say I was sorry. That I regretted pushing him away. But I also didn't know if it was already too late. If anything I said could undo the damage. I started wondering if it had really been that easy for him to let go. Maybe he'd just been waiting for me to be the one to end it. Maybe he was relieved. Maybe he'd grown tired of trying to hold on to something that had already slipped away. But no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't undo what was done. I couldn't take the words back. I couldn't erase the pain they caused. All I could do was sit with the truth. He had found someone new. And I was left with the consequences of my mistake. I kept telling myself I wanted him to be happy. That I hoped he'd find someone who could give him everything I couldn't. But it didn't make the loneliness fade. It didn't fill the empty space he left behind. So if you're reading this, and you're in a relationship where you're starting to take the other person for granted, where you're scared to speak your truth, or afraid to admit that things aren't working, please don't wait until it's too late. Don't let your fear or frustration make choices your heart doesn't mean. Don't let a few reckless words destroy something beautiful. Because sometimes, once the damage is done, there's no way to undo it. And you're left wondering how you let go of something so rare. Something you didn't even realize you needed, until it was gone.